Today I will be explaining a 2018 crime drama / action movie, Den of Thieves. Ahead, spoilers. Be cautious and take care. An armored car pulls up to a Los Angeles donut store at daybreak, and two guards head inside. The truck is obstructed by the automobile and the SUV. As the two guards leave the store, outlaws in full body armor and gas masks appear, armed with shotguns and assault rifles. After being held up, the truck driver calls the LAPD to report it. The bandits then raise their weapons and threaten the security guards. An outlaw shoots one of the guards when he grabs for his weapon, and a second criminal kills the driver. The bandits break the back door off the truck and free the fourth guard. When the LAPD finally shows up, a firefight breaks out, but the outlaws' assault rifles easily dispatch them. As a result of the gunfight, 5 law enforcement officers and 1 outlaw were murdered and the vehicle was stolen. At last, they arrive at a warehouse. Ray, the leader, scolds Bosco for killing the guard and informs his men that the armored truck must be repaired because they need it in pristine condition. As Ensign checks on him, he opens the back of the truck. "We've made it," Ray says, "and we're now cop killers." Nick O'Brien, a detective of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, arrives at the scene and approaches the group of officers who are standing over the dead criminal. After Detective Borracho explains the scene to Nick, he understands that they are up against highly adept thieves who anticipated a lack of air backup. Detective Tony Z assumes they got a faulty tip and botched the assignment after hearing from Detective Murph, who informed Nick that all they stole was an empty armored truck. Bosco, meanwhile, is photographing the police squad from a car across the street. While Ray is in the workshop, Bosco shows him the images he collected and identifies Nick as the supervisor. Ray has spotted Nick and decided to research him. According to Ensign, Nick was a football player for South. Ray informs his team that Nick is in charge of the major crimes unit. The getaway driver, Donnie, takes one more look at the picture of Nick before leaving. Nick and his Laws crew are currently looking into the incident. Because the criminals were aware of a transfer that wasn't going to go through the traditional carrier, the authorities believe it was an inside operation. Ray, who was granted parole 8 months ago, is the prime suspect. Donnie is working late at the pub when an employee from the Federal Reserve Bank leaves without his FedEx's card. After depositing the money, he approaches Mac, another member of Ray's group, to thank him. Donnie and Mac are out drinking with Boss and Alexi, 2 of Donnie's friends. Nick is grilling Donnie, who says the pub is neutral territory and open to everyone. Donnie affirms Nick's assertion that he must have overheard some interesting tales inside. After Donnie's shift ends, he gets into his car, and Nick tases him through the open window. A strange bed greets Donnie when he awakes. Upon emerging from his hotel, he discovers Nick's crew, comprised of 4 ladies, in his motel room. Nick shows Donnie a photo taken of him and Ray together, and Detective Giss informs Donnie that they are familiar with him. He spent time in county jail for attempted manslaughter, was issued California's record-setting speeding ticket, and was eventually convicted of grand theft auto. Giss claims that he is only one slip-up away from being sent back to prison. Donnie tells the police that he's seen Ray a few times in the pub, but that's about all he knows about him. Nick reveals a skeleton tattoo on his arm that reads "Regulators" to Donnie. He explains to Donnie that it means he is part of a clique or an illegal group of police officers. Inmates aren't shot and booked here, they're merely killed. Donnie is asked by Nick why a coward like him would associate with a group of criminals. He suffocates Donnie after the latter admits he serves only as the crew's driver and knows nothing about their inner workings. Nick assures Donnie that he will keep in touch with him regardless of what he decides to do. Nick's wife confronts him upon his early morning return from work, accusing him of infidelity. She shows him a message he sent on her phone by accident. She uproots with the kids and takes off. Ray informs the crew that the LA Federal Reserve has never been looted, so they decide to keep an eye on it. He describes the stringent security procedures at the Fed and claims that despite 53 attempted break-ins, no one has succeeded in getting past the lobby. Therefore, we have decided to rob it. Ray, Ensign Bosco, and Donnie are all Marines, the regulators at Lost Headquarters learn. It turns out that during the decade that Ray was incarcerated, there were no particularly complex heists that went unsolved. Nick assures the authorities that if they managed to put Ray behind bars, they would have solved every open case. Nick receives the divorce papers while he and his wife are enjoying their lunch break. Ray and the rest of the gang have returned to the warehouse. He takes them through a typical day at the bank with an emphasis on the operations of the cashier station. Ray states that the Fed removes invalid serial numbers from their system daily. 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the invalid bills are shredded. A garbage management company comes and hauls everything away to the dump. He claims that $30 million is rejected on a daily basis just in a $100 bill count room. Nobody is after $30 million, but it may be theirs if they can get to the unsuitable bills before they are shredded. Donnie finds work at a Chinese takeout joint that serves frequent customers from the Federal Reserve. He comes inside the Fed while delivering orders carrying 2 to-go containers. Donnie receives a buzz-in and ID card from security. He hands one of the takeaway bags to the waiting women in the cafeteria and then enters the restroom, where he conceals the second bag and event. Ray and his team are out to supper later that evening. Also present and taking seats at a table are the regulators. Nick approaches Ray's table where he and Donnie are having lunch and introduces himself as someone he spotted at the gym. Before Gis can ronic away and apologize on his behalf, Nick has insulted the football team for which Ray formerly played and has been perving on the women at the table. Ray and his gang question Donnie about his police background in the warehouse. Donnie protests, but Ray points a gun at him and demands to know how he is related to Nick. Donnie gives in and reveals to the group that Nick approached him and that he has some knowledge of their identities. He claims he hasn't spoken to Nick since then. Ray accepts Donnie's word and orders him to inform Nick of the heist's Friday date. Donnie confronts Nick about the near exposure at the restaurant when the two of them meet in a suit store. On Friday, he tells Nick about the theft, but he doesn't specify where it will take place. Nick visits the firing range to see Ray in action. Nick, eager to demonstrate his proficiency, loads up his weapon and begins firing. Ray is not convinced. He fires off a flurry of shots and then runs off. When Nick sees that all of Ray's shots go dead center, he becomes irritated. Nick watches the show at a bar where Ray's girlfriend works. After leaving the stage, she approaches him and whispers in his ear, leading the two of them to her apartment. The following morning, upon hearing Ray's footsteps, she bolts from the living room and Nick enters shirtless. They exchange glares and look down at the rifle on the table. Nick indicates with his eyes that Ray should take it, but Ray just smiles and shrugs it off. Instead, he avoids Nick and enters the bedroom, where he promptly shuts the door. Nick, having gotten the location of Ray's next theft from Ray's GF, gets in his car, phones one of his friends, and gives the location to the latter. A van pulls into the bank's parking lot while authorities watch the building from a distance on the day of the heist. Ray and his team emerge, armed to the teeth with assault rifles, Kevlar jackets, and face masks. They storm the bank, fire at the cameras, and order everyone to the floor. Everyone's phones are taken away, their hands are tied with cable ties, and they all get sacks over their heads. Ray tells the bank manager to call 911 and warn the operators that they will kill one hostage every hour until their demands are completed unless $10 million is delivered in a helicopter with fuel within the next hour. He claims that law enforcement officers are forbidden from entering the bank and that hostages will be killed if a negotiator makes contact with the robbers. With their sirens blazing, the LAPD and the FBI rush to the scene. The bank manager unlocks the safe inside the bank. Ray picks up the phone and puts it on speaker. If their needs are being satisfied, he wants to know. LAPD representative has assured us that talks are ongoing. You just killed a hostage, Ray adds before hanging up. Bosco shoots a captive in the back after taking him hostage. The bank manager once again picks up the phone when the negotiator calls. A hostage has been slain, and he claims that if he calls again before their demands are completed, the robbers would kill another hostage. He needs to know if they have 90 minutes to spare. When Ray nods, the bank manager nods in agreement. The police are currently outside the bank studying blueprints. They hear a blast and figure Ray's men have blown the safe's lock. Nick asks Tony Z to explain something on the blueprints. He claims it's a sewage line, but the map proves otherwise. Nick looks down a manhole and thinks. He exclaims, "We've got to get out of here," before grabbing a crowbar and forcing through the bank's main entrance. After checking on the captives, he makes his way to the back and discovers that the hostage Ray was supposed to have shot is in fact inert. A manhole provides Ray and his team a way out of the sewer. The bank is invaded by armed regulators. When they enter, they find a sewer line visible through a hole in the vault's floor. Nick has descended into the sewer underneath them to pursue. Matt makes a call to the Fed while posing as an employee of Alameda Security. He arranges a 2:45 p.m. drop-off from Pico Rivera Savings, which is within walking distance, While driving the stolen armored vehicle, Ray and Ensign pose as Alameda armed guards. It has been redesigned to mimic an Alameda delivery vehicle. They pull up to a security gate, present their identification to the on-duty Federal Reserve officer, and are granted access. They come to a stop, then unload 2 cash tips from the back of the truck and roll them onto the counting floor. In order to count $100 bills, the money counters roll the money dibs in. Ray and Ensign head to the lobby to wait. Bosco has entered the utility tunnel located below the Fed. Ray tells him via radio that Donnie is already in the counting room. Bosco ticks off the power, causing a brownout at the Fed and disabling the $100 count room's cameras and motion detectors. A police security officer announces that the registers must close for a short period of time. Ray gives Donnie the all-clear signal on the radio once the counters and police personnel have left the counting area. Stacks of $100 banknotes surround Donnie as he is trapped inside a money tub. He exits the tub and replaces its contents. Mac listens in on a call from a Fed worker who often orders Chinese takeout. She's upset since it's been an hour since she placed her order. Mac pretends to speak Chinese and warns her that it's on the way. The counting room's camera and motion detectors are malfunctioning, and a police security guard has noticed it. He ignores the protocol and orders the guard to take a head count. The guard reports to the dining area to request counter service. Donnie can be seen in the counting area, hiding behind a table, stuffing damaged $100 bills into black Ziploc bags before discarding them down the garbage chute. He sets off the newly activated motion detectors. The guard takes the 2 counters back to the counting area. Using his radio, Ray orders Donnie to leave. He unscrews the cover of a ventilation shaft, climbs inside, and replaces the cover. Over their radios, Donnie informs Ray that he is in the ventilation decks, and Ray then gives the order for Bosco to restore power. Everybody goes back to their jobs. After a few days, Donnie remembers the Chinese takeout bag he left in the bathroom vent and jumps out to retrieve it. He gets around with the Fed worker's abandoned access card from the bar. After delivering the stale takeout to the irate women in the cafeteria, he exits. Alexei and Boss are both working for the garbage pickup firm that the Fed contracts with. They pause at the crossroads and nod to one another. The $100 counting chamber confirms the accuracy of the Alameda count. After buzzing Ray and Ensign out of the waiting area, they roll the empty dibs back to them. Alexei, driving the garbage truck, collects trash from the Fed's basement. Ray and Ensign leave the Federal Reserve building in the armored vehicle. Bosco is following a garbage truck and signals Ray his whereabouts. Ray follows the garbage truck up to block it from the front, while Bosco follows in a Suburban and barricades it from behind. The driver, Boss, is told to exit the vehicle as Bosco runs up to the door and aims a revolver at him. Bosco loads up the garbage truck and heads for the landfill, where the rest of the team soon follows. Nick is racing through Los Angeles in search of Ray's gang. He stops the car as he sees Donnie strolling down the street. Mac looks on as Gis and Tony Z shove Donnie into the back of Nick's truck. Donnie reveals Ray's whereabouts after being beaten by Nick and the boys, who are desperate to find their friend. While working at the landfill, Ray receives a call from Mac informing him that Donnie has been badly burned. Mac insists he hasn't relapsed and wants to know where to go, but Ray doesn't answer and hangs up. They go into the Suburban, and he reports to Ensign that Donnie and Mac had been burned. Nick spots Ray's Suburban and follows it onto the clogged motorway. He sends detectives Murph and Borracho a radio transmission with the location. Ray checks the rearview mirror and finds Nick's pickup stuck in traffic around 20 vehicles behind him. When Murph and Borracho arrive, Gis handcuffs Donnie inside Nick's truck and exits with Nick and Tony Z. As the authorities close in, Ray, Ensign, and Bosco exit the apartment. Ray fires, hits Borracho, and ends his life. When the authorities fire back, chaos breaks out, and hundreds of bullets tear through the air and onto vehicles. Ray shoots Tony Z in the leg, knocking him out, and Bosco gets a gunshot to the neck, both of which become fatal. They enter a street, and Nick takes chase to Ray and Ensign. Ray shoots Murph in the arm, and Gis kills Ensign with a gunshot. Nick chases after Ray as he rushes into an alley. Nick fires a round that severely wounds Ray. While lying on the ground, Ray manages to reload his gun and get to his feet despite his discomfort. While aiming at Nick, he approaches the ladder on foot. Nick reloads his weapon and fires a bullet through Ray's midsection. Ray squats down behind the car and rummages through his vest, looking for a magazine. He realizes that he's out of bullets, rises up, and points his empty gun squarely at Nick. Nick shoots Ray in self-defense, however he is hesitant to do so because he doesn't know if Ray's gun is loaded. Nick returns to his vehicle and learns that Donnie has managed to get away. When he and Gus investigate the contents of the black bags in the SUV, they discover shredded money. Nick inquires about Donnie's location at the pub where he once worked. The shopkeeper claims that Donnie gave notice 2 days ago. As he takes a seat at the bar, he sees 2 Fed workers stroll in, each wearing an ID badge. He hones in on a portrait of a football squad on the wall and sees Donnie, Mac, Boss, and Alexi on the team. He leaves the tavern and stares at the Federal Reserve head-on. It dawns on Nick that Donnie was the mastermind the whole time. Donnie, meanwhile, has adopted a British accent and is working as a bartender in London. At the bar, Mac, Boss, and Alexi are joking around. Donnie comes to Ray and tells him about the heist from the Federal Reserve, and we see flashbacks of him removing the cash from the Ziploc bags, hiding it in tires, and sending them to Panama. This is the last word. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this.